Let's go to Michael German, former FBI special agent who previously worked undercover infiltrating neo-Nazi groups. He's currently with the NYU School of Law. Michael, why do you think, first off, welcome and thank you for being here. Why do you think that there has been such a rise in these groups and a rise in this sort of violent extremism?
So I don't think there's necessarily been a rise. I don't think somebody who wasn't a racist a year ago all of a sudden became racist. I think what's happening is that these groups have always been there. These ideas have always been there. And what we had over the presidential campaign, was a president who was saying bigoted things that appealed to them and talking in terms of raising anti-Muslim themes, treating immigrants as if they're somehow not part of the fabric of the United States of America. So that gave them the opportunity to feel some support from the government and therefore be more public with their views.
I was struck by these groups coming out and showing their faces and willing to have their photo taken, willing to give at the very least their first name to newspapers. This is not so hidden. They're not hiding behind cloaks and masks any longer.
Right, and actually willing to commit acts of violence on camera.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's not being policed a lot more aggressively, I think, is giving them a green light to become much more aggressive. And that's what really troubles me, is that we've seen a pattern of these protests where the police let violence happen in the streets.
Yeah.
And these are groups that are used to listening to dog whistles from public officials, right? Just a little tacit approval for what they're saying, and now they're getting what they're perceiving as authorization, sanction to commit violence
from the president.
From the president, but also from the local officials. I mean, this is something we have to hold everybody responsible for. The fact that police are standing by when people are being beaten in the streets is a significant problem. You know, we've seen the way law enforcement can police a protest and sometimes over-police protests in very aggressive ways. So they know how to do this, and it troubles me that this...
They said it was a hairy situation given all of the guns that were being carried in this group. After all, Virginia is an open carry state, and we did see people who were, in the words of Terry McAuliffe, the governor, better armed than the police there.
And that's a big part of the problem, but there are plenty of laws, right? If you're going to be an armed security in Virginia, you have to go through a licensing process. So if somebody comes down to Virginia and says, I'm doing security with this gun, they can be arrested. That's against the law. Quickly,
do you think the president's words today were enough, and will they stop these groups from continuing to march and continuing to cause havoc?
No, just the delay in time, even if it was that alone, but the way that was so grudgingly pulled from him, I think gives them the sanction that they were looking for.
Michael German, thank you very much for